Senior Legal Counsel of the Justice Collaborative. And today we're joined by Brandy Chambers, candidate for Texas State Representative District 112. For the past 12 years, Texas' 112th district has been held by Republican Angie Chen Button, who voted to kill attempts to expand Medicaid last year. But this year, that could all change. Brandy Chambers is one of a growing number of Democratic challengers running for seats in the Texas State House. We're joined by Brandy to talk about her campaign and the statewide efforts to flip the Texas House blue this election cycle. Brandy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, John. Glad to be here.
So, Brandy, before you entered politics, you worked as an employment lawyer. What did you learn about that experience, about the imbalance of power between workers and employers?
I learned that it really depends on the employer and the kind of company that they want to be. I saw that the federal government and sometimes the state government tries to help level the playing field, but it's really up to the company to determine what type of employer they want to be. Do they want to be, only worry about the bottom dollar? Do they want to have a successful and nurtured workforce? And that all comes through leadership. And I've also learned that there are balances that need to be made between the employer and employee relationship, but just like there needs to be balances within the state, within companies and the average citizens. It needs to be a balance. And if one side is out of balance, then nothing can be successful.
So you've spoken about leadership. What kind of leader do you want to be? And can you specifically relate that to a story from your district that's inspired you to run?
Sure. So the kind of leader I want to be is someone who builds people up, that admits mistakes, that takes accountability for any and all decisions, that always does the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing, that putting the community and the goodness of all is always going to be my highest priority. So that's who I want to be and I strive to be. And that's something I'm able to do a little bit whenever we got hit with COVID in my district. We had a serious lack of testing access. There were only a few testing sites. It took hours to get through. Most of them you had to pay some sort of copay or anything. And I saw that there was this need. So I partnered with a healthcare provider to provide a free day of testing for my district. That was very quick. They got through it. I think the longest wait was maybe 20 minutes due to backup. And then everyone was able to drive through, pull through, and have results within a couple of days. So that's something that, I think shows who the kind of leader that I want to be. Where I see a need, I try to find a way to fix it.
So you mentioned healthcare, and obviously so many people are suffering from COVID-19 in this moment. Can we talk about Texas healthcare? So Texas has the highest number of uninsured people in the nation, with more than 12% people uninsured even before COVID-19.
Yes.
What would you commit to doing to expand access to health insurance?
Oh, my number one priority for the state of Texas, as soon as I'm elected, is to expand Medicaid. We have refused to expand Medicaid at every single turn. My opponent has voted against it 3 different times, even though in our district alone, the average income is $50,000 with an average household occupancy of 4. So you can't tell me that expanding Medicaid wouldn't affect my district, because it would. Additionally, it would help lower property taxes. It builds an economy around it. So for every dollar that Texas would have to pay for the expansion, we get 9 back. So not only is it the right thing to do, but it's the financially smart thing to do for the state of Texas. That's my number one priority.
What's your opponent getting wrong about Medicaid in her opposition?
The only thing that she will say, and I've never heard her elaborate on this in any way, is that it comes with strings. She doesn't define what those strings are. She doesn't say what strings that are so offensive that it would, discount the help that it would give to our community and our state. I have no idea, but I know she toes the line on the GOP being against the expansion of Medicaid, and I just refuse to do that anymore.
Can you talk a little bit about where your district is for our viewers, both in Texas who may not know what district they're in, but also we have viewers from around the world.
Sure. So my district is one of the many that are in Dallas County. So I am the northeast borders of Dallas County. So it's the north suburb called Garland. So the north part of Garland, east part of Richardson, Saxe, and then 2 precincts in the north part of Rowlett. But it does not cross county lines. It's all encompassed within Dallas County.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much for breaking that down. I'd like to ask. So there's been some attacks against you for being a spy from communist China. Correct me if that's wrong. Can you
That's not
talk
wrong, unfortunately.
what's happening out there? Like where did that come from, and what was your response? Because it seems
I have not responded because it's absolutely ludicrous, and it gives more air to her. So what she is basing it on is that in 2012 and 2013, I was an employment counsel for a company called Huawei. They are part of the company that I worked for was Huawei Technologies, that is part of an overall structure for Chinese telecom. After I started working there, they were under congressional scrutiny for their ties to China because they're a Chinese company and were labeled a national security threat due to the belief by Congress, although they did not show any sort of proof, but belief by Congress that because the Chinese government was so heavily entwined with businesses in China, that therefore there was a risk of Chinese government influence into the company. I left there shortly thereafter, have not been there since 2013. A lot of stuff has happened since then. In fact, I don't know anything about it. But that's what she's claiming, is that I worked for a company that stole secrets. I don't know what secrets that was. I am not that important to have any secrets other than what's the really good shows on Netflix. And I don't think that's really a state secret. So yeah, that's what she's implying. And that just shows how scared she is. She can't run on her own record. She's been there 12 years. She should be flaunting out all these great votes that she's done for 12 years. Instead, she's making up stuff and trying to tie me to something I had nothing to do with to color my reputation instead of running on her own record.
so. You mentioned that she's a 12-year incumbent. You ran in 2018. You lost by what, like 1,100 votes?
1,110 votes, 1110 out of 53,000 votes cast. Yes.
So, what, if anything, are you doing differently this go round in this campaign?
Well, luckily this time I am getting more help. So when I first ran in 2017, 2018, I was a first time candidate. I'd never been involved in a political campaign. No one thought that this race was winnable because the last person that was on the ballot lost by 14 points. So everyone just assumed this was an unwinnable district. No one invested in it. So I had very, very little resources, but I still managed to earn 49% of the vote, even being outraced and outspent 3-1. So this time, because of the grit that we showed, and we showed that this district is winnable as long as you've got a candidate and some resources, that people are starting to pay attention and invest. And so with that investment, we're able to get our message to the people, not lies about my opponent, but my message to the people, which is expand Medicaid, redo public school finance, lower property taxes. Let's take care of Texas instead of taking care of big corporate donors.
So how are you planning to take care of Texas? And can you talk a little bit about if any of your policies have pushed the incumbent to shift on any of her policies since 2018?
Well, since 2018, I will say, because 2018 happened, then the legislative session started in 2019. That was her 12th year in that deal, and she did become suddenly more moderate. It's like she found Jesus or something. I don't know what happened. She became way more bipartisan, backed a lot of things she previously hadn't backed. Whatever. So now I have made expansion Medicaid my number one priority from day one. I have not changed my tune at all. My policies have not changed at all. This is my only thing I'm talking about. And now suddenly she tells the Dallas Morning News that she's for Medicaid expansion, but only under the block grant. which really wouldn't end up helping Texas at all, especially since Trump, if he's reelected, has said he's going to stop the block grant in 2021 anyway. So she hasn't truly changed her position. She's just saying she did.
So your opponents accuse you of wanting to ban the energy industry?
The oil and energy industry, apparently I'm a big fan of candlelight. So I don't understand.
I was just going to ask, yeah, do you want to ban the energy industry? And
Not
if
that I'm
not,
aware of.
what are your positions that she's potentially misconstruing?
Well, all of that, first of all, I don't want to ban anything. What I do want to do right now, Texas gets a large amount of its income, state income from taxes from the oil industry, from oil and gas. So we are inherently financially reliant on fossil fuels. What I want to do is invest heavily in renewable energy in the state of Texas, create more jobs, look towards the future, and remove our financial reliance on fossil fuels. Push our fossil fuel economy to a renewable fuel economy. That's what I want to do. At no point does that encompass banning anything. I like electricity. I like taking hot showers. I like having gas in my, in my gas tank and being able to drive. I have absolutely no comprehension about where she's coming from on that allegation.
So there's been an association between green jobs, renewable energy, like you spoke of, and what, both Texas and across cities and counties around the United States, what people are going to need in terms of jobs, right? Like we're facing potentially a depression. What's your plan? And can you relate it to, renewable energy and some of the issues you already spoke about?
Sure. I mean, absolutely getting those jobs. And that's one thing that we need to look at because we are having a decline in oil production, not because of the state of Texas policies, but because of the actual natural environment of us pushing towards globally a renewable energy system, right? So we need to start looking at that, using those workers that are currently out and putting them to clean up abandoned oil distilleries, refineries, abandoned oil wells. There's a lot that can be done there to basically start working to clean up the mess that we've made. Additionally, with heavily investing in renewable with gas, with wind and solar and hydro, those are all expanding. Those are all expanding industries where we have private and governmental entities that we can push together to create a partnership for all of these different opportunities once we get the money and the funding there and the resources there to be able to accomplish that.
Thanks, Brandy. So you previously mentioned, running in 2018 and just some of the struggles with financing campaigns. What advice would you have to other people that want to run but think, I don't have the money to do this. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have private backing. Like what advice would you give to those folks?
First, get out of that mindset. Leave that mindset behind. I am not a millionaire. I'm not even a comfortable heir. I actually ended up living off of my savings during 2017, 2018, and put hardly any personal money into this campaign. And what I would tell everybody is that if you believe in yourself and you believe that you can make a difference and you're passionate about it to make the sacrifice to jump into the ring, then you need to get people on board with you to start supporting you and start making those, telling all your friends, this is what I want to do. Will you support me? I'm going to need some financial, backing. And at no point, especially in Texas, did we ever think that a Democrat can financially rival Republicans, because Republican money is outrageous here in Texas, especially with no limits on campaign contributions. But what 2017, 2018 taught me, yes, you do need to have some resources because you do need to be able to get your message to the people, but money is not everything. If your message isn't a winning message, if you are not the right candidate, then it doesn't matter, right? If you have that winning message, you can get it to people. That's truly all that matters. So my opponent can say I'm a communist, socialist, energy hater person, all she wants. that message I don't think is going to resonate with my community. And she's outspending me again, left and right. What matters is your policies, your positions, and your ability to communicate it. And that's what you need to focus on.
So, Brandy, I'd like to give some of our guests a little bit of context. A lot is happening. Obviously, there's a presidential election underway. There's Supreme Court nomination battles happening. Why should people be focused on this race and Texas races in general?
Sure, and that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked me. I know that it seems strange that we would ask anybody outside of Texas to care what's going on in the Texas legislature. Here's the issue. Right now, the Texas legislature has a Republican governor, a Republican Senate, and a Republican House, right? But the state House is 9 seats away from flipping to Democratic control. Why does anyone care? Because this is a redistricting year. And in Texas, the maps are drawn just like any other bill. It has to go through the House, through the Senate, and signed by the governor to get our fair maps. Now that the Supreme Court has kissed political gerrymandering and just said, ain't gonna touch it, there's absolutely no remedy left for states for fairness outside of themselves. So for us to have the minority right now, to have any say in how our districts are made, to make sure that we have fair maps, we have to flip that house. So we will have leverage to be able to push back against the Republican gerrymandering. And we're not saying we want it gerrymandered in favor of Democrats. We're saying we just want fair maps. Just fair. That's it. That's all. That's how a true democracy works. So once we get those fair maps, we will have true representation that will likely turn Texas blue, if not blue by then anyway. And for the next 10 years, with our electoral votes, there will be absolutely no electoral math that can get a Republican in the White House without taking Texas. So all Democrats, all independents that are like-minded, that want to see the overall health for this nation, that want to stop the corruption, that want to stop the old boy network, stop the anti-Semitism, the racial disparities, we have got to have a Democrat in the White House to be able to do that and to lead that charge. We can do it by taking Texas legislature.
Thanks so much for mentioning the maps. I mean, we could do a whole show on political gerrymandering.
Oh, we could do days.
Appreciate that. The Supreme Court nerd in me really appreciates that. Before we wrap, I know you have to get back to campaigning and serving. Inquiring minds want to know about those Netflix secrets that you mentioned earlier.
Okay, so it's not, like I said, not really secrets. So the biggest shows that I'm on right now that bring me joy, my biggest joy right now, because when we did the lockdown, that was hard on me. I became a full-time mom, 24/7, full-time attorney, full-time candidate, and I never had any escape. My escape was Schitt's Creek. I started binging Schitt's Creek, the Canadian show that just swept the Emmys. It is my joy. And then the other thing is that 2 of my shows that I've been obsessed with for years, one is called Supernatural. It is not a documentary. It's a scripted TV show about 2 brothers that happen to be absolutely from Texas, by the way. And it is an amazing show. And then I keep reliving and keep streaming through. That's my daughter. Thank you. The West Wing. It's so nice to see a competent administration that we're still dealing with the issues that they dealt with 20 years ago. We're still having those same conversations, but it's just nice to see it in an environment that's not hostile, that's not tribal, and not run by a megalomaniac. So those are the things that I like. I actually have probably a list of about 30 other things, but those are the top 3 that come to my mind right now.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. I actually hadn't even heard of Schitt's Creek. I'm always behind on Netflix.
Oh, honey, you need to get on that. And let me just tell you, it takes a couple of episodes. The episodes are only 20 minutes. It takes a couple of episodes. And by about the 4th or 5th episode, you're kind of like, I can't tell you if it's good or not, but I can't stop watching. And then by the end of the season, you're like, I got to see another season. Where are these people? They're my family. What happened? I need more. I need more. It's great. It's greatness. So just if you don't get hooked on that first one, keep on going. I promise you it's worth it.
A lesson in life. Appreciate that. So yeah, Brandy, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to everyone out there for joining the briefing. This has been our Future on the Ballot. Full episodes of the briefing are available as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to the podcasts. We're live again tomorrow at noon Eastern to talk with Athena Hollins, candidate for Minnesota State Representative District 66. Please follow Appeal News on Facebook and The Appeal on Twitter for the latest news. And Brandy, thanks again.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your time.